the military offered to pay for me to go to med school. My wife was like, I don't know, we have kids, like residency. I kind of talked to those guys and they were like, no, you should just be a nurse practitioner like us. Close to 15 years later, here I am. There are people from every aspect of my life would have made fun of me for being a guy and being a nurse.
Yes.
Are now like, oh my God, like, how are you this amazing? Let me send my friends to you. Let me send my family to you. It is the most rewarding part about this. We were seeing 30 patients a month we weren't getting paid for. My advice to new people, it's worth it. Just see the patients. You've known me for 30 seconds and you already recognize that there's a problem with my lab. My primary's been seeing these labs for 3 years and ignoring them. We're finding these patients that are just falling through the cracks. That definitely is, to me, the proof in the pudding of that we're doing the right thing. Duet isn't just here to help with billing or help with whatever. They actually want to help us grow. And that's what's so unbelievably refreshing. There's probably somebody out there right now that's listening that wants to do this, doesn't know how to do it. Let me just tell you, you can. There's no perfect time. Just do it.
Welcome to Unsung, the podcast powered by Duet, where we shine a light on the nurse practitioners who are breaking barriers, redefining healthcare, and proving that NPs aren't just the future, we're the now. I'm Dr. E, and in each episode, we'll uncover the untold stories of NPs across the country who are changing lives with their practices, making a real impact in their communities. Today, we have John Mandeville. He owns Granite State Family Health in New Hampshire. And I love his story because it is clear that the universe guided him into becoming a nurse practitioner. He opened up less than a year ago and he's already up to 700 patients. You're not going to want to miss this episode. It is amazing. John, I'm so excited to have you here.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Of course, I've heard so many things about you and I'm so excited to meet you. So our audience are NPs or aspiring NPs. So my first question, well, before I start my first question, tell us where you're from and where your practice is located.
Yeah, absolutely. So originally I'm from the Boston area, from Salem, Mass. Pretty famous as, kind of the witch trials of 1692, Halloween capital of the world. About 10 years ago, I moved to New Hampshire. Which also coincided with when I got started in my second career, which was in nursing, which ultimately took me into becoming a nurse practitioner. And we just kind of up and moved to this small town outside of Manchester, which is kind of it's not the capital of New Hampshire, but it's one of the bigger metropolitan areas. And so that's where I opened my practice.
That's where I
wanted to keep it in the hometown. And yeah.
I love that. Okay, so first things first, what made you decide to become a nurse practitioner?
Oh man, so this is a great, I'll give you a very I have a very interesting life. So I was from a very working class family. My dad's a truck driver. My mom was like a teacher's aide so that she could have school hours. They did not know anything about going to college, financial aid, anything like that. So I came up with this brilliant plan. I was going to go to the Naval Academy and actually applied, got to sit down and meet Senator Ted Kennedy, who ultimately appointed me. But also that same year, I blew out my knee playing football. So I got mad at life and wasn't able to go to the Naval Academy because of that and just joined the military. So then I did my couple years.
You must have been so upset, but then it turns out so much better, right?
Yeah. So I have this crazy, my mom, because my dad was not that good at this stuff, sat me down at the kitchen table. And this is maybe before the year 2000 for anybody listening that's younger than that. And she was like, hey, so we have this great local state college right here in town called Salem State. Great nursing program, by the way. And she said, it's going to cost you $384 a month to go. And here I am, 17 years old. I think I was maybe making $4 an hour at the time. I was like, yeah, I can't afford that.
It must be, it was $1 million.
Yeah, exactly. It was I'm going to have to get 4 jobs. When am I going to have time for school? So I was like, screw it. I'll just go in the military. Did that. And in high school, I had also worked in retail. So when I got back from the military, I was in retail for a long time, ended up being a vice president for Target. It was kind of where that culminated. And at the time, my wife and I had started to have kids. So I left Target kind of after the financial collapse, late 2009, early 2010. And I wanted to be a cop. And so in Massachusetts, it's very political. You have to you take a test for the whole state, but then based on what town you live in, you automatically have to go there. It's not like a job where you just go apply. And so I was sitting on the list waiting for that. And a friend of mine said, oh, well, you should get your EMT license. Like this will kind of bolster your resume for that. So I did that and saw that paramedics were cooler and did cooler things. So I became a paramedic. And then at the time, we were in a small family practice that had 2 female MD physicians and 3 male nurse practitioners. And I had
You had a role model.
yeah, I had no idea what the position was or what it did. But when the military offered to pay for me to go to med school, my wife was like, I don't know, we have kids, like residency. And so I kind of talked to those guys and they were like, no, you should just be a nurse practitioner like us. And, probably close to 15 years later, here I am. Like,
I love the story.
but it gets better. E, like, is it okay if I call you E, by the way?
Of course. You can call me anything you want.
When I tell you that, like, if you had asked me even 5 years ago, like, what do you think of nurse practitioner? Like, are you happy about this? Like, do you want to do this? I would have been like, I don't really know. Like, when I tell you this is my calling, like, there are people from every aspect of my life that even people that 20 years ago, when it might have been more appropriate to do so, would have made fun of me for being a guy and being a nurse.
Yes.
Are now like, oh my God, like, how are you this amazing? Like, let me send my friends to you. Let me send my family to you. Like, can you help me? Like, it is the most rewarding part about this. Like,
It really is. But you know what? You also surface something really important in this story, which is the importance of role models. You know, as a woman and as a gay woman, and also speaking to like Black and brown women, we're always like, we need to role model so that Black and brown youth can see, or gay youth can see, or women can see. And in your case, something like there's not a lot of male representation in this field.
right.
And I imagine that if you went to that practice and there was 3 female nurse practitioners, your brain probably would have been like, oh, that's probably not for me. But seeing that like created some hardwiring in there. And so role modeling is so important. Seeing people that you respect in a position is so important. And now, and you are inadvertently, without question, a role model for someone else. So it's like, that's so powerful. It's also really powerful for those who believe in anything, like whatever you believe in. The universe was like, we're going to mess up your knee because you need to go here.
I can't tell you enough. Like, even how I came to open my practice is so everything happens for a reason. Like, I firmly believe in that. Like you said, I don't care, what energy or being or vibe you believe in. Everything happens for a reason. So I, right out of school, started at this really great, kind of corporate practice, part of a larger health system. And I remember all through school, they're like, you'll make X, like just roughly that's what you should expect. And I said, okay, that's great. And they came back with an offer and it was right in that ballpark. And I said, that's awesome. And then they started talking about RVUs and I'm like, I'm sorry, who? What? Like, what is Star Wars? Like,
what is this nonsense?
Yeah. And literally in my first year, I was able to double my income. So I was able to make twice what anybody ever told me I could make. So I was happy as a clam, like, loved my patient panel, like, had great coworkers. I was the only male in the entire practice at any level. So that was kind of fun. And then, I went out on a limb with another provider to try and help some patients. And the practice came to us and said, hey, how are we getting paid for this? And so quite literally my first response, because I guess the term now is disruptor that people keep using around me, because
that's the name of my other podcast, by the way, The Medical Disruptor.
Is it awesome? I mean, I'm happy to stop by there someday, just saying.
Of course.
But literally I turned to them and I said, you know what? I said, I don't know why we're having this meeting. I said, but just know that at the end of it, you can accept my resignation. And this is our CEO, like the chief medical officer. And they're like, what? No, that's not. Like, why? And I said, literally, so these were some brittle diabetics. And we basically helped them get some compounded Ozempic back when it was hard to get.
Yes.
And
so this is relatively recent.
Oh yeah. This is like just over a year ago.
Okay.
Yeah. The basically what had happened was the wife of one of my patients called the CEO and said, hey, I want you to be aware that this man saved my husband's life. Like, we couldn't get this med. Our insurance company turned around and yanked it away from us. And he went above and beyond. He found a pharmacy for us. He made sure it was safe and he told us where to get it. Well, they found out about this and they're like, well, that's not our policy. Like,
they didn't want you as a compounding pharmacy?
Correct.
Okay.
And specifically what they wanted to know is how they were going to benefit from it. And
they never benefit from any pharmacy, anytime you write a script.
Exactly. But it hit me in that moment, and where I sometimes am impulsive in the right ways for my patients, when the first question out of their mouth was not, how can we help other patients like this? And instead was, how can we line our pockets? And now we're having you and your peer in here for kind of a, I don't think we were going to get fired, but there was like some reprimand coming.
Some hand
I said,
slapping.
yeah, I'm like, I'm done. Like, this is not what I got into medicine for, is to just make everything about money. So I quite literally go the next day. I've quit, like, have this beautiful job, like not sure how I'm going to pay my bills. And my son, I have 4 boys, and my youngest was at school, and he got a tick on him. And it's kind of a small town we live in, so the school nurses and I have like done some CEUs together. Like we all, know each other pretty well. She goes, I know you're probably not worried about it, but he had a tick on him. I'm not sure I got the whole thing out. Like, you should probably take him to his primary. Well, his primary happens to be Wendy Wright. So, yeah. So I hadn't seen her in a while, but I go in and she goes, oh my God, I've heard all these great things about like what you've been doing at your practice. And I go, well, it's funny you mentioned that. Like, do you still help nurse practitioners? And she goes, yeah, why? I said, well, this is what happened. And she was,
just quit.
Yeah.
She was like, I have no plan B.
Right. So she goes, well, I have some office space right here. And somebody helped me when I was new. I'm going to help you. Like, so literally could not be more like, it happened for a reason on that day. My son got bit by a tick.
Like, even the tick bite. I love this story so much.
And literally, like, that day I was like, that's it. I'm starting my own practice.
So you open up a spot. I love Wendy. Wendy's wonderful. So you open up a spot, and what? Okay, so that your aha moment really wasn't like, I always ask the aha moment to be like, oh, I wanted to practice this way. Your aha moment wasn't about wanting to open. It was just leaving this. I'm not doing this anymore. Whatever this is.
The aha moment was that, a corporate practice, and that's what I call them. I mean, basically they had 8 offices and they were part of the local hospital system, and they ultimately got bought out by a much bigger system after I left. But their whole thing was visits, right? So I safely, at least in my opinion, I safely can see 18 to 20 patients a day. Anything more than that, and you're definitely, you're like clinically just exhausted at that point, like never mind all the paperwork and stuff you're gonna have to do. So at these places now, like the bare minimum now is 18 to 20, 24 to 26, like, and so everything is just about visit volume. They don't care if you spend 20 minutes with a patient. And really, like, kind of the proving moments for me, the moments that have told me I'm doing the right thing. And I'm an interestingly emotional person sometimes, so I hope I'm not going to cry about this, but it actually, sometimes when I tell the story, it makes me cry. I had a woman come in 3 weeks ago, and I preach a lot of the time that one of the things that my patients will love about me when I'm kind of selling myself to my patients is that I don't dismiss anything. So I don't sit there and go, oh, it's just your anxiety. Oh, you're 50.
Yeah, it's in your head.
Yeah. And I don't like the term normal. And what I mean by that, as you well know, is everything's a spectrum, right? So if, your TSH is just near the normal, but you have all this, just near abnormal, but you have all the symptoms, like maybe we start treatment now. Whereas you get a lot of kind of traditional medicine people are like, oh, well, it's normal. Who cares if it's right up against high normal? It's still normal. We're not going to touch it. Right. So this woman comes in and she hands me some labs. She said, we're like a couple months old. She said, can you look at these? It was like the first thing she said to me. And I flip it over in my hand and I'm looking, and boom, H&H are off the chart. And
high?
I look right up.
They're high?
Oh yeah, high. I think her, hemoglobin was like 60. And so I look right up. Yeah. And I look right up to her and I go, how old are these? And like, what treatment are you getting for this? And she starts crying, like bawling her eyes out. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm, it's hard to tell through the podcast, but I'm like 6 feet tall, 250 pounds. Like I'm a big guy, tattooed on my arms. Like, I'm like, oh my God, I've somehow upset this poor woman. She goes, you've known me for 30 seconds and you already recognize that there's a problem with my lab. She goes, I was diagnosed with blood cancer 2 months ago. My primary's been seeing these labs for like 3 years and ignoring them and saying that this problem I had was related. Like apparently she had to have an eye surgery because the blood cancer that she had had affected.
I've literally never heard of a hemoglobin of 60 in my life.
Yeah. I've seen because I deal with a fair amount of patients that are using testosterone replacement therapies or something. But like that's like 52. Yeah.
Oh, hematocrit. You
Yeah,
said
sorry.
hemoglobin. I almost had a heart
Sorry, yeah.
attack. Or hematocrit of 60.
Yeah,
I was like, what? How is she alive? A hemoglobin of 60? Okay. Oh,
right, yeah.
hematocrit of 60.
Sorry.
Yes. Okay.
I
Yes.
think, and I think her hemoglobin was like 22. Like
Yeah.
it
Still
was still pretty
crazy.
high.
That's crazy high.
Yeah.
Yeah. Testosterone, you'll see that, right? Your sleep apnea patients. But
Yep.
but she had none of that. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And it blows my mind. And some other, more generic examples, I'll have patients come in and they'll say, oh yeah, everybody has it on their phone now, right? Oh, here's my Quest labs from a few months ago. And I'm looking and I'm like, okay, why aren't you on diabetes meds? And they're like, why would I be? And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, you've had diabetes for a year and a half and nobody bothered to tell you. No,
Yeah.
they said it was normal. I'm like, oh my God. Like, and that's the problem when you're seeing patients for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, like, and just in this kind of factory model that's out there. And so that definitely is, to me, the proof in the pudding of that we're doing the right thing. We're finding these patients that are just falling through the cracks. They might not be severely ill. They might look totally fine, but nobody's bothering to tell them that their A1C is 7.3 for 2 or 3 years. And then, we wonder why we have problems with
Yeah.
chronic disease,
Yeah, I mean, there's all different ways of doing that. Like, I think at the core of it, because it's not necessarily like I'm appreciating of your issue with time, which is a factor, but I think at the core of it, because there's people who listen who have different types of schedules.
Yeah.
At the core of it is someone who cares.
Right. I appreciate that.
Right. At the core of it is someone who doesn't dismiss. I think that's the most important part, because you could certainly have somebody who could spend an hour with someone and still not look at their labs.
Oh yeah.
So time is, and one of the things that we do in our practice is this is one of the reasons that we draw blood in the office, because one of my concerns has always been, because I definitely see more patients than you mentioned. We have just different support structures around that. Like we have scribes and we have a lot of, so like there's ways to do it that's not overwhelming to the provider.
Yeah.
But to your point, I think there's ways that are novel. Like I'm sure, do you do blood work in your office?
We do. Yep.
Yeah.
We're lucky in the sense that we have a Quest attached right to our office.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I think one of those things for anyone listening, the reasons we do it, and I'm sure you'll concur, we don't make any money from it. It's actually slow. We do it we don't send them to Quest. We do it, it actually slows us down.
Right.
But it's one of those things where you can know what's going on with your patient right away.
Exactly.
And like, because if you hand people, I know when I was a patient, someone hands me a script, I'm not going to Quest for like a year. And that script is expired now. So you get this office from Wendy and you come home and tell your wife, hi baby, I quit. We have no money and I rented a spot. Like, how did that conversation go?
So thankfully it went, there was definitely some like tense blinking and then, and I think this is the funny part. And I feel like you probably, because, you've done plenty of stuff on your own too. That's when like the rest of the world showed me that I was capable of this, because she was like, oh no, you're going to do good.
Love
and I had people that followed me, not just patients, but, my medical assistant, who's also like my office manager, who's like easily 50% of our brand, was like, just gave up her job that had health benefits and stability and millions of dollars in capital behind it, and said, I'm going with you. And that was so humbling for me, because there's still a little bit, even today, we're thriving, we're growing month over month, but there's still that like, pinch yourself, like almost imposter syndrome going on a little bit. Yeah.
Yes. I think everyone says that. And I love that you said that, because it gives people, especially ones starting out, they're like, how does everyone know what they're doing? We have no idea what we're doing.
No idea.
No
Literally
idea.
None. Didn't have capital, didn't have
no capital. I wasn't even credentialed. You weren't credentialed. Like
nope.
On your nothing. Just
and
effing around and finding out, basically.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. FAFO all the time. Literally, I had patients, and this even gave me some, as I was going through the credentialing process, which for anybody listening that's thinking about it, like, I don't think I've ever met someone better than Hamza when it comes to credentialing. Like, I basically said to him, listen, I'm homeless in 30 days. Like, you got to get me something. And I think he had me with
Hamza
like
from Duet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Had me like with 2 insurance providers before the end of that month. But even patients, I would say, that wanted to follow me for my practice, I would say to them, hey, listen, I can't really take insurance yet. Could I charge you $50 just, for the visit? And they were like, they would give me $100 because they were like, this is still better than, what we had before. So
wow, that's amazing. How many patients are you up to now?
I think we're closing in on 700, and we've been open.
My goodness. How
Yeah.
long have you been open?
So we soft opened in August. So just over 6 months.
Amazing. I love
Yeah.
this. In just over 6 months, 700. That's amazing. That's exponential growth.
Yeah. So it was funny. We actually sat down. It was really windy on Friday here in New Hampshire, so we lost power and internet. Like literally, the
Sure,
the cable
amazing.
pole went down. So
Perfect. Can't do anything. No big
yeah,
deal.
couldn't do a thing. Like
Who needs
reschedule the rest of the
internet?
day. And we had also just come back from vacation, so we were sitting down, me and my MA, and we're like, in 2 half days, because we had just come back from vacation, we had seen 25 patients. When we first started, that was like a week for us, and it
Yes.
was definitely one of those moments where we're like, oh girl, we've made it. Like
Yes. I
like
love that
now
so
we see
much.
80 or 90 patients a week.
I love that so much. I remember
Yeah.
when we first hit 5 in the first week, we were like high-fiving each other. Like 5
Exactly.
in a week? Whew, exhausted.
I remember like literally my number one goal, because I'd never had, as an executive, I had plenty of employees before, but I'd never had to pay someone out of my own
Yes.
pocket. And so
Terrifying.
oh yeah, I was like, I don't care if I can make the rent as long as I can make her first paycheck. And I have never missed a paycheck for her.
God bless.
Um,
And you
so
have one employee right now.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we definitely need more, but she keeps saying to me, like, I don't want you to take more off my plate. I'm like, okay.
It's always like that. I think always then there's a step of like the next hire, whatever it is, whether it's a tech, whether it's an office person, whether it's another NP, where it's like, are we quite there yet? Are we busy enough
Yeah.
yet? And then you take that leap. And I just want to let you know that when you take that leap, you're going to be like, wow, this was a big mistake. And then it's not.
Right. Exactly. And I think, strategically too, you try to be you almost, from a financial standpoint, because you're not sure, right? You're a new young business. You're like, I'm going to wait until I literally can't breathe, and then I'm going to bring somebody in.
Correct.
But to your point, like we know now's the time that we probably do need to bring another provider in, because we are seeing, close to 300 patients a month. Like, but I'm still like trying to hold my breath a little bit,
Yes, yes. No, I remember I used to see all the patients myself, and then eventually you're like, I would like to go on vacation and not lose money.
Right.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Or start a podcast or do some other, you know what I mean? Like, the practice is running itself and I'm over here. This is great.
Yes, yes. And you can start doing other things. That's absolutely true. So, okay, so you are family practice.
Correct. Yep.
Any special services that you provide that like other practices don't, or?
No, I think, as you pointed out earlier, I think the last time I checked with AANP, 12% of NPs nationally are male. Regardless of, I'm sure it's, you break it down further into racial groups, it's even less, African American and brown, same as, LGBTQ. So, but I think the one thing I do a little differently by comparison, because I'm right next to Wendy, whose practice is all female NPs, is I do a fair amount of men's health. And I think the thing that really makes a difference there is, as I said earlier, I grew up working class, so I get a lot of patients that remind me of my dad. So my dad was the old school, I'm not going to the doctor until basically somebody takes me there against my will. So what I love is I actually have a group of patients now called the train wrecks, and they're actually very proud of this fact.
And their wives drag them in?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
100%. Yes.
Oh, yeah. That's a test.
Because they're fine.
Oh, absolutely.
It's their wife that's having a problem with this.
There's a meme that floats around out there that I'm actually going to frame above our receptionist desk, and it's basically like, if the visit starts out with "I'm here because my wife made me come," that's 100% sensitive for the fact that there's something really wrong.
That is 100% sensitive for the fact that something's really wrong. You are so right. Like, I actually did a case study because we teach this, and it's exactly what I said. Like, I don't even know why I'm here, the patient says. My wife dragged me in. I'm like, that's a red flag myself.
Red flag.
That is so
Cleared
funny.
my afternoon.
Meanwhile, your A1C is a 12. You haven't had blood work done since 1957. Like 100. Oh my God, your toenails are like falling off from fungus. Like, it's just a mess.
At least half of them are ingrown. Yeah. Oh, it's great.
That's so funny. You have no peripheral circulation, but it's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
Wait,
these scales on my lower leg aren't normal?
What? All these moles on my back?
The Cretaceous period.
and on the top of my head? It's fine. Yeah. I've been a mailman without a hat for the past 40 years. Big deal. No big deal. What? This is fine. Oh my God. That is so funny. 100% sensitive. That's
absolutely. But this group of patients that I have called the train wrecks, these are genuinely patients that I've looked straight in the face and called a train wreck, with all the love and respect that was required. But on average, they came in with a blood pressure above 180 systolic,
of course,
an A1C above 10,
of course, on brand.
Everything else out of control. And now most of these guys have lost anywhere from 60 to 100 pounds.
God bless.
All their A1Cs are controlled. Their blood pressures are controlled. Their wives are now coming in and saying, I would like to be your patient. And I'm, kind of looking in the mirror going, okay, I don't look as much like you as I do your husband, but that's fine.
Yeah, of course.
And these guys have a new lease on life. And again, like that's the stuff, I think I'm making some assumptions here because you look younger than me, but, I'm an 80s kid, which means kind of grew up in the 90s. It was all like MTV Cribs and Pimp My Ride and stuff like that. And so, everybody wanted to be wealthy at one point. I could care less if I ever make money. The rewarding thing now is I know my kids are proud of me, and I know that like I'm changing people's lives. And even when I was, I had a big fancy title and an expense account, like I couldn't say that. I was just crunching numbers for another company. You know what I mean?
First of all, I'm not going to let that compliment slide because you were born in the 80s. My brother, I was born in the 70s. So that's first.
So we need to talk about skincare routine. Fine, okay?
That sounds great. But it's really interesting that you said that. So yesterday I sat with my son. He lives in his own apartment with his cat that he really took care of. And I said, you really saved this cat's life. She's in such great hands. He's like, Mom, you do that for humans all the time. And I was like, aw. To the point of like your children see you do this is everything.
Absolutely.
The pride. How old are your kids?
So I have 4 boys. The oldest is 15. Then I have a 12, a 10, and a 7 going on prison.
Going
7. I was making a joke saying 7 going on prison.
That's what I thought you said. And I was like,
yeah, he's feral.
I got you. What's the latest, thing that he's done, this kid?
So
feral. He's the last one. He's number 4. No one's raising him. He's being raised like a cactus. What are you talking about?
Exactly. Well, and he has to fight against his much older brothers who are,
Of course, he's got to be wild.
Yeah. So he gives no F's about anything. Like, like we go skiing and he just like, he's like, oh, I'll just go straight. Who cares if I fly off of something? If there's a tree in the way, I'll break it.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. He has the makings of an entrepreneur, sounds like.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's also the one like, and as I'm sure you well know, and it's in some ways I feel like it's worse for me because being male, everybody assumes I'm a doctor.
Sure.
So I've mostly don't correct people anymore. I just ignore them because I literally spend my entire day doing that. But of course he keeps saying it. So I'm always trying to explain to him. But yeah, he is so proud that like,
it's so cute.
My dad takes care of people and he saves lives and he does this. And I'm like, yeah, I just check A1Cs and tell people to take their meds.
My son's in college now, pre-med, but when he was a munchkin, I was like, I don't even remember. He went to summer camp, unbeknownst to me, with a whole bunch of my business cards. He was like in grade school. And all of a sudden the camp counselor was like, we got your business cards. I'm like, ma'am, what? It's like, your son's been handing them out at camp.
That is awesome. That's actually a great idea. I'm glad you said that.
There you go. Arm them with cards. Can't say no to a kid.
That's right.
That's so funny.
It was funny. I was actually talking with Jonathan, the CEO of Duet, not that long ago because we're doing great, but I also feel like I don't get as much business from like within a mile of the practice. And so I feel like that would be a great way. I'm just going to hand out business cards at camp for him.
100%. So let's talk more about that. Where are you getting most of your business from? How are you getting your patients?
So we definitely were lucky. My panel at my last practice was supposed to be 1,200, and when I left, it was almost 3,000. But which sounds great, except out of those numbers, I want to say I talked to probably 2,500 of them, which was awesome. And many of them were sad to see me go, but we're about 40 minutes away from where we were before, which in rural New Hampshire means it's quite the drive. I know in New York that could be around the corner, depending on the traffic.
Yeah.
But we probably had about 300 to 400 patients come from our previous practice. And then the majority, and I still struggle. I'm a humble person. I don't like to, pretend like I'm an influencer or I know what I'm doing. But I have more patients come in and then literally like their significant other comes in and it's like, oh, can I be your patient too? Or can our kids come here? And I love that that's the case. Like, I definitely, when I started the practice, that was not on my mind. I didn't want to be word of mouth because that's not as reliable as just having people walk through the door. But the fact that we now grow probably 50% of our business just organically without any marketing. And I think as nurse practitioners, that is just something we can all do. It's not unique to me.
Yes.
Trust me, I wish I was that good. But just because we're compassionate, because we're caring, because we listen, they thrive in that environment and they want that. And because we just give it, they're like, let me bring everybody.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think word of mouth is probably the strongest. Like social media will get you
Absolutely.
me, but I think it's the strongest. And also being family, right? Like family NPs, which is different. Most of our MDs, the concept of being a family practice is not really there anymore. And so
Right.
mom comes with the kids, comes with the husband. So it's like you get one, you get them all.
Yeah.
Um, so that is really awesome. So are you planning to do anything outside, like, or are you planning to do more for growth, or is this like what you're planning to do for now?
Yeah. I think ultimately, the one thing I struggle with in the short term, and I would say this is something for anybody aspiring to do this to watch out for, is I'm I'm kind of my own brand right now, and that's a double-edged sword, right?
It
Because
is.
once you get so busy that you can't be the person you are to the people you already have, you're in trouble. And if you're the only brand, you can't really bring in new people because, again, you're going to be tapped out. So I think one of the things we're looking at for growth is actually growing through students and growing through new grads. And part of the reason for that is, we want to bring in people that have kind of either a moldable personality, which I think, again, is what a lot of NPs bring to the table, or, haven't learned a particular system yet so that when they come in, they're not like, oh my God, wait, I've only gotten 10 minutes with patients before. Now I have more, but I don't quite know how to do that. So we kind of want to grow them from within. And then we do want to expand. We've had about 1,000 patients tell us that if we were back in the neighborhood we were in before, they would.
Mm.
And I mean, these are people that have told us this like last week, even though when we were initially open, they said they wouldn't come. So we have eyes on a second location, probably fourth quarter-ish of next year.
Love that.
And then really just, I think one of the things that I look at, both with a mentor like Wendy, with some of the amazing people at Duet, is really growing this whole thing, right? Like we're becoming something for NPs that I feel like didn't exist before. Like, we all kind of tried to band together locally, but like now we have the possibility like this could really start to spread
Yeah, be a
nationally.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me just say a few things about what you said. And I am also super excited about, let me start from the end, super excited about the network that is Duet. This is why I do these podcasts and travel around with the CEO to meet other NPs, because truly we're a movement and it's
Oh,
exciting to be at the forefront of this movement. But before we delve into that, I just want to say something to address your concerns, because I can't help but be a mentor, because I've been doing this now for 11 years and we're at 20,000 patients. So I would say this to you, and I have 8 NPs that work for me. While I understand the desire to have someone moldable, and that is definitely one approach, there is something magical that happens also when you bring on seasoned or unseasoned NPs that bring their own flair to it. So your concern about it, you're being the only brand, I've discovered over time that some of my NPs are so good that patients don't want to see me anymore. Yeah.
exactly.
And so
That's what I want,
that's what will
honestly.
happen, because so they don't have to be exactly like you, and you don't have to be the brand. The culture will be the brand. Like we have a very particular kind of culture, and that comes through, that just shines through, because whoever doesn't have the culture it doesn't vibe with
Yeah,
it.
you just don't fit. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I remember the first time it happened, I was like, first of all, how do you not know me? It's called EG Healthcare. I'm the E. And second of all, what do you mean you don't want to come on my day? Like it was like a moment. And now I'm like, wait, this is great that they don't want to come on my day. I hired well.
Yeah.
So it's the concern feels like that, no one's going to see me. No one's going to want to see anyone besides me. But first of all, some new patients are going to only meet that new NP.
Right. And they're going to fall in love with them.
Yeah, and they're going to fall in love with them and not even know you. And then, sometimes you do such a good job that some patients, they'll come any day because all of our NPs are so great. Like, oh, I don't care. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it doesn't matter. right? So don't worry about that. It's going to be amazing because you're an amazing guy. So only amazing people are going to come to you. And God broke your knee just to get you here. So what are you talking
So
about?
thank you. That is a wonderful compliment, but also that is wonderful mentor advice and very timely because we are definitely looking, like I said, and again, if I can just speak to Duet, obviously I don't get any financial compensation or anything from them. But, to your point, our CEO is so wonderful that quite literally I said to him, I just don't know how to hire a new person. Like that's a lot of money to have to come up with all the time. And so he had this great idea of we're going to sit down once a month for the next 3 months. We're going to make sure you have X amount of money going into, this rainy day fund to get an NP in. And then we're going to see where you're at the end of that 3 months. Like, so Duet isn't just here to help with billing or help with whatever. Like they actually want to help us grow. And that's what's so unbelievably refreshing.
I'm so glad you see that because sometimes it's hard to explain what Duet does. And this podcast is not supposed to be a Duet commercial, but we're here now.
Right.
So people don't understand what it is. I'm like, well, yes, they do your billing. Yes, they do credentialing. Yes, well, they're kind of like an IPA. But no, what you just talked about is the secret sauce. And it's very customized because like for my practice, I don't need growth, but I needed other support, which, I needed how to improve my value-based payment, like how we're doing that on a better scale. And so they're able to customize the parts that you're like, who am I turning to for this? This is not a ChatGPT exercise.
Right, exactly.
This is not a Google exercise. So I agree with you. It's that secret sauce, that special sauce that they have that goes way beyond credentialing or billing, or they do that too, and they do that well. Hard to put into words. The other thing I would say to you about NP, since we're here, is that you don't necessarily have to hire full time. My first hire was someone who kept her full-time job. She's still with me now. It's like year 5. She keeps her full-time job and she gives me 1 day a week.
That's
so it's
great.
Not too expensive.
Yeah.
And it gives you 1 day. So you're kind of like dipping your toes in it. I didn't hire my first full-time NP until maybe year 8.
Wow.
Yeah. I had like one person and then one person on Saturdays. They kept their full-time. So I wasn't responsible for their entire livelihood.
Yeah. Which is just so like for anybody that's never done it before, like it's so daunting. You're like, wait, you're like another child. Like if I screw up, your whole family is in trouble.
You can't screw up. And then with the NPs come more admin. Like we have a huge admin team now, and we have an overseas admin team now. And so it's like some mornings you're like, oh my God, when did I become a grown up?
Right. Exactly.
When did this happen? Oh my God. All right. So what's one thing, habit or system or something that you've implemented or learned that's just been a game changer for your productivity or your sanity?
So I definitely would say, you were talking about things that help streamline, so we use eClinicalWorks. And I have always been a little like ChatGPT is cool and I've used it for things never to get through school. I promise.
Yeah, you did.
Yet I made it through. But even like, so we have an AI system that works within within eClinicalWorks that literally does listen to things. And what I found is, and you're an amazingly engaging person too. You have the first couple things you talk about when you walk to the visit, and then 40 minutes goes by and you go, okay, I'm going to send in that med. I'm going to put in that referral. And you forgot that we talked about 3 other meds at the beginning. They forgot, they leave 20 minutes later, they're calling, you're getting messages, but the AI literally like tells me everything that we talked about.
That's great.
It's amazing the things I have. Like my patients think I am on top of everything. If they ever listen to this, I'm screwed because I'm not on top of anything. It's the AI reminding me, oh yeah, I did say that I'd give you a podiatrist for your fungus toenails. Like
I'm going to tell you that means you're on top of it, because on top of it doesn't mean doing it all yourself. On top of it means knowing how to utilize resources.
Exactly.
And there's plenty of people who absolutely refuse to utilize resources. So you don't take the credit away from yourself, John. I'm not going to allow it. Not on my watch, sir. Yeah. You are on top of it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course. So let's see. So I was going to ask you updated, but you're already updated on the latest medical advancement, which I love. Would you say, so your biggest challenge, I'm not sure, like, is your biggest challenge, was it financial? Was it growth? Is there something else that's like the biggest challenge you faced?
Yeah. So I think, so I would say more in the past tense, the biggest one we faced was financial. So literally, I left and again, all things happen for a reason. We received quarterly bonuses at the last place for the RVUs and stuff. And I didn't realize that I had some stored up. So, I left my last job with about $20,000 was all the capital I had to find a building, beds, lights, otoscopes, everything.
Everything.
So we were on Facebook Marketplace like you wouldn't believe, which again, just great advice for anybody that's starting out.
Amazing.
Like there are like healthcare systems are the most wasteful things on the planet. So I found these two gentlemen, literally they were paid by Mass General to clear out 100,000 square foot building where they just left
Wow.
all the beds, all the otoscopes, all the
Wow.
like they had x-ray machines, and they just wanted these guys to sell them for, whatever they could get from liquidators basically. So we ended up getting probably $30,000 worth of equipment for like $7,000.
Wow.
And on one level it was amazing, on the other I was like, oh, this is why healthcare is so broken. So I think now we're in this great place where, we make enough money, we have all our vendors set up. I would say, I think we've hit that unique place that I used to think about when we first started, of when I'm like, oh, how do you go from one person and one assistant to an office full of people? And now I'm starting to see where that is. And to what you said earlier, I think as soon as we bring in that next person, that waterfall is just going to start, and that snowball is going to start rolling. Because every time I think like pinch myself, like, oh, we're going to have a slow month, we're up by another 50 claims this month from the month before, or, we've brought in more money. We were having a huge problem with Harvard Pilgrim. We got, they credentialed us the wrong way, not Duet, but Harvard Pilgrim. And so we were seeing probably 30 patients a month we weren't getting paid for.
Oh, goodness.
And as much as that sounds crazy, my advice to new people, it's worth it. Just see the patients, because especially if you're
the loyalty.
Yeah, exactly. Because now I'm making all this extra money because it's fixed.
I agree with you. That's really good advice. My first 6 months, I wasn't even credentialed. I just had people for free.
Right.
Just come. We'll figure it out.
Especially if they have a relationship with you already, keep that relationship. It does, worst case, get their copay. Like, you'd be surprised. Like, copays.
Absolutely.
I always used to think copays were a joke, and now I look at what I bring in copays at the end of a week, and I'm like, oh, that pays for my MA. Like,
yeah, it's a big deal. But that's really good advice, because this is a long-term relationship.
Exactly.
And even now, if I have a patient that I've known for a while and their insurance isn't active, they're between jobs, I'm like, just don't worry about it. Just come in, because that investment that you gave them 1 or 2 visits for free is priceless. That's like advertising investment.
Exactly. Yeah. I will also say one lesson that I learned very quickly. Again, I'm not, 80s generation, so I'm pretty good with social media, but I am not like an influencer. So I thought I'd be cool and like do some of my own marketing. And you put up like that one meme, and there's that one person. So I don't mind admitting this. I'm a huge proponent of, in most relationships, one person is the oldest child, right? Like, somebody's in charge, the other one is the oldest child. So I made a post about that. And ironically, it was about men being their wives' oldest child. Everybody thought it was great except for one person who was like, that's so offensive. And I literally at that moment was like, this is why I'm not doing this. Social media is a trap. I'm just done with this. So then I hired somebody that knew what they were doing.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Listen, you can't please everyone. You just can't. It's fine. It's fine. When I first started TikTok, all I got was trolls of like, you're not really a doctor. Why do you have a stethoscope around your neck? And I'm like, oh, okay. But I kept going, and there were almost 1 million followers in, so you can't make people happy. Until this day. Now I don't even look at the comments. I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
You just keep going.
That's my favorite one too. Like, well, I want to see the doctor. Okay. So I'll send you to one.
Yeah. Okay. Bye. It just says NP everywhere on like your website and on your door, I'm sure, and everywhere.
Oh, everywhere. Yeah. Business card, the whole nine. Yeah.
Everything. Okay. So is there anything before I ask you something about like, fun fact about you, is there anything else you want to tell our audience that maybe I haven't asked you?
I think there's probably somebody out there right now that's listening that wants to do this, doesn't know how to do it, is not sure they can do it. Let me just tell you, you can.
Yay.
Like, honestly, like, if you can get thrown into it by, losing your job and just having somebody like offer you office space that you can't even afford, and you can be successful, and like, trust me, if I can do it, anybody else here can do it. You're living proof that people can do it. Like, there's no perfect time. Like, I don't care how type A you are, like, you can plan everything to a T. And then I have a good friend that, started their practice and COVID hit. Like, who could have predicted that?
Yeah.
They were seeing people out in the parking lot. Like,
Yep.
There's no perfect time. Just do
It's
it.
not perfect time. And yeah, if you are still writing a business plan, first of all, maybe you should rethink this. But second of all, whatever you write on that paper, look back a year from now, you can be laughing at it.
Yeah, exactly. I have a business plan for you. Open the door, see patients.
Yeah, just do it. Just do it. That's really good advice. People are scared and they think we know what we're doing. We don't know what we're doing. We're figuring it out, and you have to, it's a learn on the job kind of situation. So that's really good advice. So what's
Yeah.
a fun or surprising fact about you that most patients or colleagues don't know?
Well, one thing I think a lot of people, again, I'm a bigger guy, not a, thinner guy, literally ski like 50, 60 days a year, do jumps, flips,
Oh,
ski.
wow.
Oh yeah, and it's funny, I remember doing all this stuff when I was my kid's age, and now they're like, Dad, let's do this thing. And it's so crazy what happens when you're maybe over 40. You're like, yeah, but who's going to pay the mortgage if I
If I
break my
break my
leg?
leg.
Yeah, like the thoughts that you didn't have when you were 20, like, oh, I can totally do that.
Yes, 100%. That's true. It's true. But so I'm gonna take the first part of it though, is that you're still doing some jumps and flips. So
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we just got back from a 9-day trip in Utah, so we were, hiking up mountains and skiing off the top and jumping off of stuff. And I think I
oh my
hit one
God.
tree. It wasn't too bad, but
You and the new prison inmate.
exactly, the new prison inmate. Yeah,
And if you
inmate number 7.
I think you're inmate number one though, aren't you?
Oh, you better believe it.
Yeah, I think so. I imagine that your wife is probably, I was gonna say the warden, but that's unkind, but she's probably, she's not an inmate. She's watching you fools on that. She's visiting you guys.
Oh yeah, yeah.
She's visiting you guys and dropping off muffins.
Well, I made the mistake of sending her a picture while we are out there because she doesn't ski, and of course, one of my sons is right next to the sign that says "Open Avalanche Territory," and she's like, "Are you like? Did you
Are
not
you
even
joking?
think before you took that picture?" And I was like, "Everything's avalanche territory out here."
I mean, that's fair. If if you weren't an NP, what would you be doing?
Oh, that is a great question. So I'd probably still be in retail, especially I loved being an executive. I think one of the things kind of we talked about everything happens for a reason, but I think the other thing people sometimes do is we look backwards on our life and we go, oh, I did this and blah, 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 and I hated it. But we don't realize like parts of who we are now came from that. And so one of the things I remember is I've always been a really good people person. And so I would have like a store manager come to me and say, oh, well, hey, we have to fire E. Like she just isn't cutting it. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. Show me all the write-ups, like show me all the training you've given them. And I can't tell you how many times I just get blank stares of like, well,
What do you mean?
yeah, what do you mean? I'd be like, great. So next week on Tuesday at this time, you're going to have a training with this person. I want to be there. I want to see it. And all of a sudden, this person that was no good, it is now in charge of a district because somebody gave
That's,
them a chance and
oh my
actually
God, that's
made
so
sure that we
true.
did something.
That is so true. I really like that story. And then
Yeah.
as you start hiring people, you notice that too. I know you have your one person there, but like over the years, when you recognize that someone has like that good flair, like just something
Hmm.
that you can't train. And sometimes we've had to develop different or slower training systems just because they're so worth the investment. I don't mean
Oh, absolutely.
financially. Like just at the end, you see this person who now has a new skill set because of you, just because you took a chance on them, because you just felt like they just had something in them.
Like, yeah, I don't want to take up too much time with this, but
No,
like,
go ahead.
and part of me hopes she hears this and part of me hopes she doesn't. But so, Michelle, who's my MA, literally was, just another MA at the place where we worked. There's 15, 20 of them. They sat in a bullpen. Nobody ever gave her the time of day. Like she had a responsibility. She did them. Immediately when I met her, I started referring to her as my MA, which I think bothered, again, I was the only guy in the place. So I think it bothered some of the other women. They thought I was like being possessive, but I was saying it in sense of like she represents me. Like
Yeah.
this person is good. And she is so flourishing now. Like she's the best example of somebody finally coming along and saying, hey, I think you're capable of this. And sometimes she doesn't think she's capable of it. And let me tell you, like, our business does not run without her. Like, I would run the place right into the ground probably in like a week. She would say the same thing. So like to watch her grow and thrive is so rewarding. And then knowing that like she's in charge of like bringing in other people. Like we literally put in her title that she's the director of clinical services, like because like she's already looking at bringing in more, administrative staff and stuff like that. And now just watching her, like, not ask, like, but just do it because she knows she can do it. Like,
so good. One of the things I discovered, and I feel like you're discovering this now, is that when I first opened the practice, it was about the patient. As the practice grew, it became about the team.
Yeah.
And you suddenly have a platform that allows other people to change their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so powerful. It's so powerful. So this is your first of many. I'm sure of it, John. There's no question in my mind. There's no question.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from someone like you. It really does. Like, you've done so many amazing things.
Thank you. I appreciate that. John Mandeville from New Hampshire, thank you so much for spending this time with us.
Oh, no problem. It's been a pleasure.
So, pleasure's all mine. That's a wrap for today's episode of Unsung. If this inspired you, share it with another NP who needs to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps more NPs find us and fuels the movement. Want to join the largest NP practice network? Learn more about Duet in our website, joinduet.com. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries and proving what NPs can do.